What happened was...
Hey friends, it's so nice to see you. It's today, the time is now. You are here and the weather is outside your window.
Today's guest is a multiple Grammy Award-winning, world-renowned artist known for her dynamic, riveting portrayals of some of opera's greatest roles. Please welcome Isabel Leonard. Hello!
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
Good. You're in Santa Fe?
I am.
One of the most beautiful places in the world, and currently starring in Carmen.
Yes.
How is it going?
It's good. We've had 3 shows thus far. And our second show, we were on the Falstaff set because the lift in the theater, which basically brings every set piece up into the theater, had broken and they didn't have a piece for it. So we had a production which we called Car Staff.
Oh my goodness.
Actually, the Barbara Seville group also had to do their production on a slightly more constructed but Falstaff stage.
Wow.
But it's all back now. Our third production, or our third performance, which was Saturday, we had our set back, which was great.
Was it drastically different, the 2 sets?
Yeah, I mean, they're all kind of open.
Okay.
Because the theater is an open air theater, so there's a lot of breeze and things. But their set is even more open. So yeah, that performance was rough. It was a lot of air.
Wow.
Just like, that kind of a thing. Also, just acoustically, I find it really difficult to sing in general in this theater without some sort of set piece to help,
right.
bounce your sound off of.
Right. Yeah, and for those that don't know, who haven't been to Santa Fe Opera, the back of the stage opens up to the entire world, to the mountains, to the sunset. It's quite magical to look at.
Yeah, it's really beautiful as an audience member.
So we met doing West Side Story with the Philadelphia Orchestra, and of course I knew your work and had seen you in Marnie, and have just loved watching you. You are such a phenomenal actor and singer, and of course I think acting is incredibly important as opera singers, and it's one way that we connect with an audience even more than just through music. We tell stories and create characters, and that's just something you do so exquisitely, and I've always admired you so much. And so I wanted to ask you, one thing I don't know is, how did you become an opera singer and an actor, and how did you start your life on stage?
I started with dance when I was younger, and so I'd done a couple of productions of The Nutcracker when I was a kid. So I would say that sort of started the in theater professional type of experiences that one has.
Right.
But it really all started, I think, when I went to Juilliard. I went for my undergrad and my master's degree, and that's really where I started learning about the classical world, right? Because I knew obviously about it, but I wasn't like an opera fan. If anything, I was quite the opposite. But I loved singing. And so for me, it was singing and theater, and it was, what am I going to do with this supposed talent that I have? And I enjoyed it, even though I was also really shy. So like my path was always like moving through the sort of shyness of like being different characters and understanding that you're being a character. It's not you, it's a character, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, most of it was through school. And then once I left with my master's degree, and I went for a year of their JOC program that they had at the time, which was a while ago, call it like a artist diploma, pre-professional kind of situation. I started working. I was really fortunate that I was able to start working and doing all of I call them all the like Ellas and Inas, like the Rosinas and the Dorabellas and
of course,
and the what is it? And like did I say Zerlina, Rosina, all the like,
right.
All those kind of, call them like second soprano roles, really, more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
So they're still like, they're out front center, but they're not, they're not like the prima donna type of role. And so I was able to then work really early. I kind of started quite early and just haven't really stopped, which is great.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And even in, the last 2 years when venues were closed, I think, you did a lot and
Yeah.
through that very gracefully, which is admirable. And as far as acting, were you ever formally trained, or was it just something you were just like really good at?
No. I think ultimately the answer is that I was never formally trained. And I think actually because of it, I do have like deep rooted insecurities about it.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because like for me, I mean, it's developed over the years, right? And for me, it's developed through the desire to have integrity on stage and honesty on stage.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've, because one of the things that bothers me the most is like if I'm playing a character and I feel like I am not just inhabiting the character from the ground up, because I also find it affects my voice, it affects just everything, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So I've just spent a lot of time in different productions, I guess, being observant of my own process through certain characters and how I perceive the piece, like as it's going by in a show, and like where do I feel the dips, like where I'm, like the feeling of you're like connected, and all of a sudden it's like that, and then so I would start like identifying those spots and trying to kind of talk to myself about them and trying to figure out why the dots weren't connecting there, and was it me? Was it the staging? Was it the character? Was it the whatever? And just working on it like that. And then obviously along the way, having some great directors who, interestingly enough, mostly the theater directors that I've worked with, like actual true theater directors versus like even like half opera, half theater and things like that. Not to say anything about, just opera directors, but the theater directors, it is different. There's a different process. There's also, I think what's great about it is there's a different allowance to the process.
Yes.
Because they're so accustomed to a different level of preparedness at the beginning of rehearsals, that to not come in as like a fully fledged character is actually a safe space in that environment versus sometimes in the opera world, it's not that it's unsafe, but it's just a different kind of situation.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, as you know, in the opera world, they're like, go here, go here, go here, because you have such a short rehearsal time. You don't have months on end to kind of flush it all out.
Right.
But those experiences were always really positive, and I've always kept in touch with those people. And so they've been resources then over the years where I've sometimes spoken to different directors when I'm working on a project, and I say, hey, can I just call you for a second and just chat some stuff out, and get some ideas. And, like I remember calling Ed Berkeley many, many years ago when I was first doing The Tempest. And I was struggling with Miranda, actually, and I was struggling with finding a really good physical vocabulary for her, because I felt like she needed a physical vocabulary, like a very different physical vocabulary than most of the other people on stage because of her upbringing, because of her experiences, right? And I wasn't getting a lot of help at the time. And I had a great conversation with him. And it was just what all I needed was like one little conversation, a couple of little sparked ideas that he gave me. And it just like opened another kind of world into how to portray her. And it's like I'm eternally grateful for those relationships that I've had and have.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I come from theater and got into opera kind of through the back door, and it was shocking at first, the difference in process and how you are almost expected to come in fully ready to go, just put a costume on me and point me in the right direction. And it's like, I long for that collaboration where we walk in and we learn what someone is offering and what you're bringing to the table. And it happens between you rather than as islands.
Well, right. It's like developing characters because they live in a world, and the world is not only their physical space, but the interpersonal relationships they have with the other characters, because that's what it is, right? There is nature, but there's so much nurture, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And the characters really need that. So I'm totally with you on that one.
Yeah. Well, I have some silly questions to ask you.
Yay.
Okay. Favorite flavor of ice cream?
Coffee.
Coffee or tea?
It depends. Coffee in the morning, tea at some other point of the day.
Yeah. Dream vacation destination, whether you've been there or not.
Ooh, I mean, when we're all working a lot, it's like home, go home.
Yeah.
But dream vacation. I have not been to Ireland yet, and I'd really like to go, nor have I been to like Alaska or any of the really northern places, because I'd really like to see the Northern Lights at some point.
Oh yeah.
So that's like a thing for me. Yeah.
That sounds fabulous. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beach or mountains?
Beach, probably. I do love the mountains. I don't know. I like it all. If I'm near some sort of water, that's
yeah. I'm the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, you can have a weekend away with any 3 people who have ever lived.
Well, I think at this point, one of them would be my dad, because he died when I was in college, and it would be really nice to reconnect like on an adult level.
Yeah.
Ooh, maybe James Baldwin.
Yes. Fabulous.
Either Frank Sinatra or Ella Fitzgerald, just because they're 2 of my favorites.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I read that Ella Fitzgerald is your favorite musician.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Incredible. Frank Sinatra as well. And it's not fair that he could also dance.
Yeah. Well, they can all like kind of do a little bit of everything.
Yeah. I mean,
like,
what was that
I
time?
just introduced somebody the other day for the first time to Fred Astaire. And I was like, I do not know who Fred Astaire is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was like, oh my God. It's like
Gene Kelly and
Gene Kelly. I mean,
yeah, that age.
Sid Charisse. I mean, it's like
Sid Charisse,
the legs for days.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That was a good time when you had to sing, act, dance, be in a movie, do it all at once.
Let's do that again.
Yeah. I'm down for that. Yeah. Would you want to do a movie?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
I mean, you've done. How do you feel about the HD broadcast? Because I like to talk about this because we're in the Metropolitan Opera. There's like 4,000 people out there, so you're playing to the entire house, but you're also doing a film that's being broadcast into movie theaters. For me, I felt like it took years off my life. That one experience, it was amazing. But like, what was it like for you?
They're pretty nerve-wracking. I mean, like I have been very fortunate to have done so many at this point and have kind of adopted my own kind of acceptance of the situation and what I think that they're there for.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that in those situations, I've sort of decided that because of the nature of it, it's like this weird hybrid, right, situation that you're in, that you're obviously performing for the theater, which is a huge theater, right? Which normally you would sort of be like a little over the top, right? Maybe, although I actually am allergic to over the top, so I'm kind of never like that.
Yeah.
But so I actually really like the HDs and wigs. I'm like, cool, I don't have to do crazy things that I don't like doing. I can just be small, and that makes me happy, even though it's still so much bigger than what you would do for a film.
Right.
So if anything, I think of it more of like a hybrid situation where I have more opportunity to show more on my face. And in a way, it's also more responsibility too, right? Because you can't get away with not being present.
Right.
And I like that. I just think it's fun. So
I agree. Yeah.
But the first one's like, they can totally be stressful because you're like, what?
Yeah.
And you just kind of,
Yeah, it's a very visceral experience. Very cool. Yeah. Okay, the final question is, what is the meaning of life?
Good. I don't know what the meaning of life is. I mean, I feel like getting to the end of your life, whatever the end of life is and whenever the end of life is, and getting there and having had like wonderful memories and relationships with people and having made hopefully a positive impact. And I'm not saying like, oh, you have to do something great in your world, but like having some sort of a positive impact, even if it's on the small community that you interact with, and having experienced joy, I think, more often than not, at least trying to look for it, or hopefully being allowed to have it, because God knows life can be really hard at times for everybody, and more for some than others. I mean, hopefully it's a sense of kind of personal, emotional fulfillment of some sort.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, and just thank you for your artistry and the message that you put out regularly of kindness and love and connecting with community and creating community through music. It's really admirable, and you're a wonderful role model for our community.
Thanks. That's very nice of you to say that.
That's all for today's episode. Puppies and rainbows till we meet again.